Hello again and welcome back to another Mage Tower guide. This time we're going to be talking about the Brewmaster Monk. So as always, let's start off with the consumables we're going to need. We're going to need agility flasks, we're going to need potions of prolonged power, some sort of food buff, I went with a crit buff, drums of the mountain or drums of fury, it doesn't matter, they're the same thing. And then if you want to use an augment rune, feel free to do that, but I did not. Moving on to the talents. Chi Burst allows you to hit the eyes while still being on Varus in phase 1. This can just be really important to help keep the encounter space clear without having to run around the room quite as much. Chi Torpedo just helps with the movement speed as well as getting out of Nether Stomps in the last phase, so it also kind of replaces the need for using Bear Tartar. So I just find this to be the easiest one to use. Obviously, Tiger Celeste and Clarity both have, they both have an argument to be made for them, but I just preferred to use Chi Torpedo to have that extra buff of speed outside of pressing a button. On the next tier, Black Ox Brew. Now for me, when you watch the video, you'll notice that I actually never use it. So you might be thinking, okay, dead talent, like why would I need this? It really just depends on your gear and what your plan is for the fight after you've tried it a couple times. For me, this was an emergency button. So once we get to the fight, you'll see what I mean, but it's a good button to have regardless, and it's usually what most people go with anyway, but it helps get back all of your stacks for your brews, and it's just ultra useful and important in case you need it. And that's really what I was using it for. It was an in case button. I just happened not to use it during my attempt. On the next tier, healing elixirs is just really useful for keeping your health up. The other two don't really give you back health. They help prevent damage to some degree. By the way, Mystic Vitality is completely useless on this. Don't even worry about it. The only way you're going to be getting heals is either through yourself or the orbs, and when you use the orbs, it completely brings you back up to full health. So completely useless talent, don't even try messing around with that one. But healing elixirs actually gives you some sort of health regen, and that can be very important in just kind of surviving the Mind Rend blasts, and as well as just surviving Cruel in general. So definitely the best one in this tier. And then finally the level 90 talent. This is the crux of this guide. Everything else you can kind of make an argument for, well, not the healing elixir, but everything else you can make an argument for, not this one. Invoke Niuzao is the absolute best talent here across the board. This basically allows you to make this fight extremely easy from what would have been a very difficult fight. So we're not even talking about the other two. This is the crux of making the fight easy, plain and simple. And then finally, I used Blackout Combo. Depending on your gear, you might want to use one of the other ones. Blackout Combo for me allowed me to pump in just a little bit more damage. It's not a complicated talent. Some people like staying away from things like this that have such a huge tooltip and have a lot of choice involved in them. Honestly, if you're scared of that kind of thing, don't be. All you're going to be doing is Blackout Strike and Tiger Palm. You're just trying to push out as much damage, and it's mostly single target. The only one you'd really care about doing is maybe Breath of Fire, but honestly, if you just use Blackout Strike with Tiger Palm, you'll be a-okay. And just one more quick point, I did have the legendary helm, but I don't use Zen Meditation once because its effect just makes it so powerful, especially when you're up against Annihilates with High Lord Cruel, that while I was thinking about how it would affect it making a guide, it's honestly just too powerful of a legendary for me to have used if I'm trying to make a guide out of it. So while I do have it equipped, I'm not going to ever use Zen Meditation, so you don't even have to worry about that when factoring it into your kill and how it affected me. But anyway, moving on. So before we get to the actual kill video, let's go over the fight itself just really quickly so we can kind of have a basic understanding of all the abilities. So the first person you're going to be fighting is Inquisitor Varus, who has at his feet what looks like a Death and Decay. This will put a stacking debuff on you that reduces your maximum health the longer you stand in it. So typically you only want to be taking 4 or 5 of these stacks unless you have a way of dealing with higher stacks. He has 2 abilities, the first one being Mind Rend, which just does a big burst of damage, and Drain Life that will need to be interrupted. There's also some ads we're going to need to deal with. The first of which being Tormenting Eyes. These will spawn around the room and cast Inquisitive Stare on you. You're going to want to make sure that you're staring back at the eye when it finishes its cast, otherwise it will knock you back. These things don't have a lot of health, so it really is helpful to keep the instance area clear by killing them off. The next one are Nether Horrors. These will spawn at the four corners of the room and then move to Velen if no one else has aggro on them. So you're going to need to collect these guys up and kill them as quickly as you can, because they also have the ability called Side Talons. This will be a debuff that stacks up on you and increases your arcane damage taken. This will make Mind Rend's damage absolutely insane. So you're going to want to make sure you kill these guys quickly, as well as maybe using a healing orb to disrupt Varys' cast and get your health back as well. The final ad we're going to be needing to deal with is the Smoldering Infernals. These guys will just kind of crash into the instance area and then just start either locking onto you or Velen, and you're going to need to deal with its two abilities. The first of which is called Smash, which will just be a straight line damaging ability that will also knock you very, very far back. The second ability is called Fell Resonance, and as you can see here in this clip, it's that green circle that's kind of spawning out from him and kind of pulsing out around him. Each time he does this, he'll lose 10% of his max health, all the way down to 20% health, where he'll get a little bit smaller and take additional damage, and his smashes will push you back less far. There's never a reason to actually switch to these guys, you just want to cleave them down and avoid their smashes. Moving on to Cruel, he has a couple of abilities, the first one being Annihilate. This is your soft enrage and what you're going to be using your defensive cooldowns on, as well as Niuzao. He will be taking the brunt of these. The next ability that he's going to have is Twisted Reflection. This is something that you'll absolutely need to interrupt. If he manages to get this ability off on you, every time he physically attacks you, he will restore 5% of his max health to him, which is very, very bad. So if this does go off on you, which it does in my kill video, you're going to need to use a healing orb to cleanse it off you immediately. His next ability is called Nether Stomp, which he will just jump towards you and spawn a puddle of green stuff on the ground. You're just going to need to get out of this ASAP. It does an incredible amount of damage, so just make sure that you're getting out of it as fast as you can, and that's pretty much it. Those are all the abilities. There's also this, I don't have a picture of it. There's also these lines that will spawn and kind of push you in random directions. You can just kind of ignore it, as well as it can kind of help you get out of the Nether Stomps as well. But that's about it. So moving on, here is how I did the fight. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and use my potion and just start trying to push in as much damage as I can. I'm also going to use Niuzao, as well as I have Horn of Valor, so that's what you see me using right there and why I look like a Vrykruel. And this is why Chi Burst is so good. As you can see, I'm taking out one of the eyes in the background without having to leave the boss at all. Also gives me some healing and also does some damage. So I'm going to take this first one up to 7 stacks, and then I'm going to use my stun right on the edge of the decay to help my stacks reset. So you notice all the ads just kind of ran straight to Velen, which is totally fine. I'm going to pull them off of him. Use that healing orb to just kind of help reset my stacks of the Side Talons. Kill the last ad, and then I'll be going right back to Velen to pump in as much damage as I can again. Here I am using Chi Burst again, killing another eye. And just, again, pumping a lot of damage. That's the big thing with this one, is just trying to do as much damage as you can. Use Paralyze to stop that cast of Drain Life. Get a couple heals off just for funsies there while I wait for the ads to spawn. Just gonna group up the ads here, get as much damage in as I can, and since I'm not really in any real rush of dying, I'm gonna kind of delay the healing orb until right before that cast goes off, and then finish down these ads. After I kill this last ad, I was thinking about going in and killing one of the eyes, and then I kind of changed my mind and said, you know what, I might as well just go back to Varys and try to get more damage. Try to use Chi Burst right there to get the eye in the background, but it was just too far away there. And again, picking up the ads. It's a lot, pretty rinse and repeat, to be honest. doing as much damage as I can, holding off on the orb. Like right now, I've got so much health, it's not a really big deal to use it, but I'll use it there as an interrupt for the drain life. Last bits of damage. And now I'm going to go finish off Varus and push into the Cruel phase. And this is where you're going to use your drums and your second potion. Whatever unused trinket you have, if you have an unused trinket. So we will be taking the first Annihilate. So for that, you're going to need to... Oh, and right here. This is where he actually did get Twisted Reflection on me, but I used a Healing Orb, which is great. So it went off, so it wasn't that big a deal. And then for the Annihilate, you're going to use Iron Skin and double Purify to handle that, and that just pretty much eats the damage. So there's going to be a lot of damage when these ads are up, so you're going to be needing to do as much damage as you possibly can to them in a short amount of time. As you can see, I just used the Artifact ability so they couldn't really hit me, and that pretty much finished them off. Kind of holding on to this Healing Orb for as long as I can. Here I'm going to use Paralyze on them because I wasn't ready with Niuzao yet. I'm also going to use that Healing Orb to kind of help get everything under control and make sure that Niuzao has aggro before that Annihilate goes off, because I didn't have a good plan for it otherwise. So here Niuzao can just kind of do his thing while you focus on the ads. Obviously trying to get in as much damage as possible is also good, and making sure you're interrupting that. But honestly, he does so much damage on his own that as long as you're using Keg Smash and Breath of Fire on him whenever you get a chance, he'll be doing a good amount of work by himself. So here I can see it's getting close to the end. I use that Healing Circle to delay the Annihilate there. I'm going to do it one more time to delay the Annihilate one more time. And then here I'm ready to take Iron Skin just to make sure I can, you know, actually finish it. He does die, and I do double Purify again. And that's pretty much the fight. It's really about that second phase and getting full usage out of Niuzao and using your cooldowns effectively with Iron Skin when you actually do need to take one of the Annihilates. This would be extremely difficult without Niuzao, and yeah, personally, that's just the only way to do it for me, if you want to save yourself the headache. One of the other things you didn't see me use is Fortifying Brew. So that's another thing that you have available to you. I think this is easily doable without any real specific gear at probably like 905. And also Zen Meditation, even without the helm, can be useful if nothing else is up. You can use it to block one Annihilate, because it is, again, physical, and I do believe it consumes the protection ability just by getting hit by it, even just by that one cast, but it does reduce the damage by a good amount. So you definitely have that as well. Overall, this was probably the easiest of the challenges I'd done up to this point. I still have the Demon Hunter left to do, so there's also that. But yeah, this was it was a fun one. This one definitely feels more geared towards DPS. It definitely had that feeling to me. But maybe that's just because of the talent setup that I used. So please let me know what you think down in the comments. And yeah, see you next time.